to go to Hawaii in a couple of weeks. That'll be nice. Just chilling. Gonna take some time to rest and restore. I just finished in May. I did my women's retreat. That was super fun. I'm even like, when did we last talk? I've lost, like, time feels so weird these days. I can't
Oh,
keep
could you
track of
imagine?
anything.
Yeah, it's like halfway through 2021. It feels like at least a year,
Oh,
but it hasn't been that long since we last spoke.
no, no, not at all, of course. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. What's new with you?
Um, Merchandise, as you
I
can
see you
see.
are like branded out.
I know, I know. Even my
Oh,
pants. I'm trying to get like underwear next.
nice.
Yeah, definitely not my face or my logo or any undergarments because I don't want that kind of problem. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Women taking off their husband's boxes and they see my face, or men taking off their wives' underwear and they see my name on like the elastic. It's
Right.
odd, right? But other than that, more practice, more brand building, networking has been key, as well as I will say that I figured out my niche and I figured out how to target them specifically and ultimately give them what they desire. I didn't think it was going to be women 35 to 50, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out stories like yours and stories like so many others, they love it. They can't
Yeah.
get enough, right?
Right.
And I can't wait until ours is finally released, which is going to be soon. So I'll send you the
Okay.
information for that. But
Great. I'm excited to share it
it's
around and
yeah,
get
it's
people
like
introduced to your podcast too.
yeah, like when I last spoke to you, it was like I got a string of people that were dealing with some form of assault
Oh
or
yeah.
domestic situation. It was like, and I don't want to blame it on you, like say you're the start, but it seemed like
Open
it
the
went
floodgates for all the trauma.
exactly. Yeah, everyone just
Okay.
come on in. Oh, Rachel was there. Okay, I got an issue. Hands were up in the air, but it just seemed because remember we went over the numbers and said how it's pretty much even with assault
Yeah.
overall for men and women. It's just
Yeah.
women have more of this specific assault, sexual assault, rape, and so
Right.
on, sexual harassment, and then men have more of the physical and the verbal and things like that.
Right.
But
Right.
what a ride it's been since that. And
Mm.
there's a lot of people in the world, many billions of people, but it's more common than we think, especially when you look at the numbers. The numbers can tell you one picture, but when you come into first person's Rachel, next person this one, next person this one, next person this one, you're thinking now you're starting to put faces to these numbers, and you're like, oh my goodness, it
Yeah.
really is one in.
Mm.
Right? You begin to
Mhm.
actually piece it together. That's what happened for me,
Exactly.
anyways.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, statistics only help us understand the story so far because, the standard statistic for women is 1 in 3 and 1 in 6 for men. And what we know about that is it can only be a statistic if somebody's reported. They're only able to track the ones that actually, ended up in court or in some kind of system. In order to be noted in that way. And a huge majority of those of us who've experienced trauma don't report. And so there's that factor that, if you're sitting in a room with women, you're sitting in a room with women who've been traumatized. It's kind of as simple as that. And what we're also seeing is because more and more men are starting to come forward and share their stories, they're starting to have more space and finding their voices, that the statistics are starting to trend more towards 1 in 3 for young men, for boys as well. Like the numbers are much closer than we used to think. And so it's a little daunting when you think of it that way. But what it also means is that we have a lot of people then who can collectively come together to heal and make really positive change to try to hopefully, decrease those numbers in the years to come.
Yes, and that's what we want. Similar to a number of things that is happening, let's say in the United States. where everything is now in the open, especially in the last, let's say, year,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the pandemic, it seems like it gave a lot of people more time to reflect on their own issues and to recall and perhaps even relive some of the trauma they went through. And now it's no longer just, okay, my skin color is different than yours. That's why there's an issue. It's no, you and I are from the same neighborhood, but you went through this experience. I went through this. You
Yeah.
and I are in the same age group. We both went through this. And now we're starting to pull more and more together. That's why when I hear things like
Mm-hmm.
your retreat,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is so needed because it's one thing to say, and you probably will speak to this, it's one thing to say, I've been through this. It's another thing to say it in front of people. And it's a third thing to say, I need help with this because I am damaged in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that for me, the process is always supporting people in, first of all, being able to name and identify their experience. That has to happen. I mean, that stage that we all go through of denial, and I don't want this to be a part of my story, and I want to pretend that everything is okay, I'm fine, nothing to see here, right? Like that's a very real, legit part of the process. And then when you start to like for me in my journey, it was really like in my early 20s when I started to feel like, oh my gosh, like I do not know what I'm doing, and I'm clearly messed up and I'm struggling and I'm hating life, so I guess I have to stop pretending. And having really safe spaces where you can start to talk about what you went through, whether that be one-on-one in, therapy, or whether that be in like a community or a group. Like my Facebook group is a place where I think a lot of people begin that process of saying, yep, I've experienced this too. And yeah, like my group programs that I run twice a year for women, I have another one coming up in August. That's really always so amazing because, first of all, they're taking a leap of faith of like, okay, Rachel, you're pretty much a perfect stranger, but I'm going to jump in to do this work for you. Oh, and I'm also going to jump in with five other perfect strangers, and we're going to do what? We're going to talk about our lives and sexual trauma. But what I think is absolutely what I've seen over and over again in those groups, in my monthly support group, and certainly even at the retreat, is that people are dying to have people to talk to who get it. There is a certain kind of code or language that survivors of trauma use, and when you're with other people who don't get it or aren't trauma informed, there's just more explaining you have to do. There's just more emotional labor that you have to do, which, that's fine. But sometimes you want a space where you don't have to do all of that. And so having, those communities that are just survivor centric are really helpful. Yeah, they played a big part in my healing too.
And I will piggyback on that, say that is so true because there's days that you don't necessarily want to explain what you've been through.
Right.
To your point, you just want to be around people that they know you have something because you're there, right? It's like the
Mhm.
unspoken, it's like what's unspoken is already known,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, how do, for you, in dealing with the women, how much of you do you see in each of those women? Is it a
Mm.
group of 10 and it's 10 Rachels? Or is it a piece of them is a reflection of what you went through and how far you've come and how far you want them to go?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I always see myself in my clients. I think that just the nature of trauma, because of how it injures the brain, the nervous system, the spirit of a person, there are nuances, but there are also way more things in common. And so, I can be talking to like one of my clients who's like a worldwide model. Like her life is so not my life. She's traveling all the time, and she's hanging out here, she's hobnobbing. Or like today, I had a great chat with a gal from Southern Arkansas. And of course, my country accent got way thicker as we were talking. But, you know, very different world. But yet in each of those women, I hear my story, I hear myself, I hear the pain. Because yeah, it's just, I think oftentimes that's where a place of relief actually comes in. Oh, this isn't just me. I'm not just this broken mess, right? It's no, we have this experience that leads to very common outcomes and results and impact. And so, you know, we can identify with each other, and by way of that, of course, heal together. Yeah, through hearing each other's stories and such.
Yeah, so you mentioned the retreat, and this is what
Mhm.
happens at the retreat. For those who don't know, how would they become a part of it? And
Yeah.
what can they expect from the retreat? Like, I know we make it seem, well, I don't want to take any credit. I know you make it seem like this beautiful place to the point where I would even want to go. And I don't think I have that
Mhm.
kind of trauma, right?
Mhm.
But how does someone get involved in that? Is it more of like a discrete situation for those who maybe not as courageous as you once were?
Mhm.
Or is it more so the same process? This is what they do. This is how they become a part of it. Walk us through that, Rachel.
Well, right. So the Emerge retreat is something that I actually do in partnership with my colleague Ashley Easter, and the idea of Emerge is all about unleashing your empowered self. So it's for women, regardless of whether they've experienced trauma or not. But as we've just been talking about, by and large, the women who attend do have some trauma in their background. But the focus and scope of the Emerge retreat is not necessarily about healing trauma. It's really about understanding how to be an embodied woman, how to own your body, love your body, you know, be in the world, and, you know, show up, take up space. Ashley does really deep, beautiful work around intuition. And so we really dive into that. I do a lot of work during the course of the 3 days of the retreat around kind of understanding the nervous system and how we can overcome fear. And really being able to tap into your feelings is a big, big piece of that retreat. And so we offer it once a year. I'm not sure yet what month we're going to do that next year, but if you want to get on the wait list, in order to hear more about that and be updated and know when it's happening, you can go to theemergeretreat.com, get on the wait list, and then we'll keep you posted next time it's happening. I think a great place for people who are like, I want to kind of like lean into this idea of community and get some support and maybe start talking, but I do want a little bit of anonymity and maybe not be put on the spot, so to speak. That would be my monthly support group, which you can get to at rachelgrantcoaching.com/ASC as in cat A. And that is like just this a drop-in space where people can come no matter where they are in their journey, to talk and to share and to get feedback and support and resources in a very no pressure, like, you know, only if you want to kind of way. A lot of people there benefit from just listening, you know, just being in the space. And then if you want to really dig in and do more direct work, that's where kind of my Beyond Surviving program comes in, which I do one-on-one or in the group setting, which you can learn about at the website. Yeah.
Perfect. That one on one sounds very like intimate, right? Because
Mhm.
you're exchanging your situation and theirs. How is that experience? Because that to me sounds so exciting to get that one on one treatment. It's I forget the no, I don't know if they still have the program. Reminds me of kind of like Big Brother and Big Sister, where you
Oh,
have that
yeah.
mentorship, right? Where you have
Yeah.
that person. But I think that's usually for someone who's much younger. I don't know the age demographic, but explain the one on one process and how personal or how interpersonal do the two of you get
Mm-hmm.
during that session?
Yeah, thank you. So we work together for 8 months, and we meet either 2 times a month or 3 times a month, depending on the level of support that a person wants. And prior to each of those sessions, my clients have lessons to read from the Beyond Surviving guidebook. some audio lessons that they listen to, reflection work that they do on their own. And then when we come together in session, I'm kind of like playing two roles. I'm one part teacher, so continuing to add information and teach, taking them through very specific exercises to help them to continue to unpack their experience. While also, yeah, just kind of having a conversation and where are you at today and how can I support you with that? And I weave my own story in throughout the program at points to illustrate various things. And, to sit with somebody, one-on-one for essentially 16 plus hours is a really fascinating process, because in the beginning, everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, this is like, oh, this is scary. And can I trust this person? And all that's supposed to be, I think particularly because a lot of the people who come to me, they've tried so many things. They're a little bit at their wits' end. And so their skeptic is, very much in the room. Is this really going to work? This feels like my final chance to heal, these sorts of things. But over time, all of that eases and we begin to exactly that. It's mentorship, it's guidance. It's very different from therapy. Some people don't really resonate with Beyond Surviving because they want a little bit more room to do this kind of very broad processing. They're at a stage in their healing where they're still needing that, and that's perfectly fine. My people, they're really like, hey, show me the path, give me the steps, let's do the damn thing. And so like engaging with that and seeing people like come through their breakthroughs. One of the women who just graduated from the Beyond Surviving group program, when she started, like in all of her paperwork was like, this is what I want, but that's probably not going to happen. I'd really love to have this, but I really don't think I can change. Like, it was just all of that. Right. And then at the end, when we were doing our celebration, she's literally wearing a t-shirt that says happiness. It's like it was such a representation of how much she had shifted and changed. So whether in the 4-month group program or in the 8-month one-on-one, man, just to sit with these women and men and just see them reclaiming their lives and taking back their voice and rediscovering themselves. I mean, ultimately, that's like the coolest part of this whole process. It's like, oh, like I forgot who I was because of all of the things that had happened to me. And as we heal that and we integrate that, we then get to show up again, and really be who we want to be in our fullest self-expressed way.
And I really do love that it doesn't sound like, and it definitely is not the typical, you complete these steps and you're cured, right? It's more of a journey. Like Rachel's saying, I'm going to walk this journey with you because I know what it is.
Yeah.
All that baggage that you're carrying, I had that same baggage. Let's leave it over here for now. Let's walk this together. It seems it's more of a journey with one destination versus step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm pretty sure there's a process that you have, but it's not like you want them to reach here, you evaluate. You want them to reach there, evaluate. It's more of a continuous growth, a continuous path, a path that they're building, but you're willing to walk it with them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
How does that feel? Right? Because I'm like living through you. And I know that I'm getting really excited. It's just I know so many people that have been through some force, some type of assault. I know women that have been through it. I know men that have been through it. And many of them, it doesn't go reported. Now, the argument could be, well, I'm hearing their side. And that's a fair argument because many people would say it can't be that serious if you're not willing to press charges. But I would say not necessarily. There's some times where something can happen to you, and instead of being angry at the person doing it, you're embarrassed.
Sure.
You feel that it's kind of, what did I do that's wrong? So knowing these different sides where there's men and women that I know that have gone through, that's why I get excited, because at the time when I was made aware of these situations my friends were going through, I didn't know programs like this existed. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But one thing I can say, 15 years ago, it doesn't seem like we're having this type of conversation, right?
Truth. Yeah. Yeah. Um, the legal and law enforcement systems do not make it easy on victims of assault to come forward. That gets even more compounded if the person is a person of color or if the person is queer, LGBTQ, right? And so there are just so many hurdles for a person to face. And reporting doesn't even guarantee that you're going to have a day in court, right? Like it doesn't even, like you can go in and go through all of the rigmarole of reporting and there still not be a case. And so there are too many deterrents and there are too many hurdles that have to be overcome. And there's a lot of people out there doing beautiful work in that area to change that, because first of all, we need law enforcement that's trauma informed. The way that you do an intake and the way that you ask for kind of a report of the experience from somebody who's gone through an assault has to be different from somebody who's like reporting their car being broken in too. But it's not. Police officers who aren't trauma informed approach it in exactly the same way. And that's just never going to land, primarily because when somebody's been assaulted as a result of what's happening in their brain, most of the data of that assault is not being, collected. And so we can't give a chronological, here's here's the first thing that happened and here's the next thing that happened and this and this. So that's a whole soapbox I could get onto for sure. But the truth of the matter is that more people are talking about this these days. More people are willing to have these conversations, to host these kinds of conversations like you are. And what that ultimately means is that more people are finding support, whether that's, by way of me and the Beyond Surviving program or other resources that are out there available now. And how that feels for me overall, like there are a couple of layers to that. I mean, the first layer is I always say to my graduates at the end, like, just so you know, you are a big FU to my grandfather. Like there's redemption in that for me. Like he did something that he, was meant for harm and was selfish and was for his own edification and pleasure. And I've taken that experience and I'm like out there creating warriors, like one more warrior, woman or man in the world who's going to live their life differently. And by way of that, their family, their friends, their children, like the trickle down effect of that is profound. And that just gives me life.
That's beautiful. That is exactly what it's about. So, where do you take that now, and how do you move that going into 2022? What's next for you and your brand?
Yeah, well, this next month I'm launching a program just for Beyond Surviving graduate women with my colleague Janae, who is a sex and intimacy coach. So it's called Reclaim Your Desire. And I'm really excited about this 6-month program that we're putting together. It's going to be something that we're going to start to offer every year. So as people come through the Beyond Surviving program and graduate that, they can then, step into this program. The work around sex and intimacy that I do in Beyond Surviving is really about embodiment and helping people reclaim choice. I think of it as like your foundation, like you got to have that before you can do anything else. But what the work I'm going to get to do with Janae in this 6-month program is just way broader and deeper. And working with women around sex is just so much fun. Women are amazing when it comes to this. Like, trauma definitely impacts this area of life, but there's so much to really explore and to reclaim there. So I'm stoked for that. I'm, continuing to work with my clients and continuing to think about ways that I can reach men. This is, another piece of the puzzle for me. I have lots of men coming in one-on-one, but I'd love to do more like group work with men So I'm just thinking about that. I'm also thinking about how can I just keep creating more space for myself, slowing down, simplifying. Man, that is such a theme for me right now. It's like simple, simple, simple. I don't know. Do you know the little TV show? Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's Marie Kondo, something like that. Anyway, she does this little like it's cleaning house, organization, and she has you go through and touch like every single item, and if it doesn't like spark joy, you get rid of it. And I'm just doing that in my business right now. I'm like, hey, do I really like doing that? Is this a thing that I've been doing from the beginning just because somebody told me it was what I was supposed to do? And so there's a lot of kind of reevaluating that's happening. And I feel like I'm just dropping more and more into like my flow and my energy and just showing up exactly, how I want to. Um, and yeah, that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not. Yeah.
Definitely, I think maybe not a lot of things that you're doing, but the impact is going to be quite the impact.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That for me is so much the name of the game right now. It's like how can I keep things really simple but continue to really increase my impact? So doing some more partnership work with nonprofits is another thing. My 28-day boot camp for the brain program, which I offer on a sliding scale. I've really been enjoying lately connecting with nonprofits and making that even just free for people who are coming to me by way of the nonprofit, just as a resource. That 28-day program is kind of like if you don't have anything else in your toolkit, make sure you have this. Yeah, it's like the bare minimum of what I think survivors of trauma need to have and need to know. And so thinking about how can I get that into as many hands as possible is really exciting and inspiring to me right now. So I'm just doing a lot of kind of brainstorming and creative work and connecting to see how I can make that happen.